Hey rock stars, what's going on? SE Rocks here with you once again. It's been a long time, what the kids say, a hot minute since I've made a video. I'm going to do a Rocks review for you guys today because something caught my eye. I watched it. It kept my attention for all three movies. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's the Netflix trilogy, I guess you could call it. Fear Street, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. I thought it was phenomenal. I'm going to break it down a little bit. There are going to be spoilers, so if you haven't seen it yet, I suggest you go watch it. I'll wait. All right, you watched all three of them? Okay, cool. Now we can get into it. Like I said, I really enjoyed this. It kept my attention. I don't know why I put it off for so long. I really find it hard nowadays to watch anything new. I just continually repeat to watch things that I've watched over and over again because it's fresh, I guess. I think that's a part of anxiety, they say. But I really enjoyed this. I think it was more or less the nostalgia of... It was just like Stranger Things. If you guys like Stranger Things, it's kind of nostalgic. You know, that 80s, 90s vibe. I really enjoy that. Netflix always kills it. And they did the same thing here. So I'm going to kind of get into it a little bit. First, Part 1 is Fear Street 1994. So you have, you know, all your early 90s music. There's some grunge in there. The soundtrack for this is phenomenal. If it ever comes on vinyl, I'm definitely going to grab it. I loved it. Every time one of those old 90s or 80s songs came on, I was like, fuck yeah. But like a Bush Machine Head, there's some Cranberries in there, 9 Inch Nails, there's some 80s, like there's Iron Maiden, there's some others 80s stuff, but that goes, I'm bouncing around all over the place. Like I said, there's 3 parts, so 1994, like I said, the soundtrack's really cool. There's a ton of horror movie references in these, I don't know if you call them films, they are like an hour and a half long each. I don't want to call it a TV series. It's not an anthology, but just to keep it, I'm going to keep calling it films. So, like at the beginning of the first one, there's a really good Scream reference. You have this skeleton head mask guy who's chasing after somebody who's, you know, a big-time actress. You have Maya from Stranger Things who plays Eleven. She's a character for a short bit in the first part. Skullhead kills her, but it's an homage to Scream. The whole scene, it's basically shot like sequence from Scream, just with different characters. I really liked that. So obviously Maya dies first in Part 1, which you're like, oh damn, she's not going to be in this. But the actors in this, actors and actresses, most of them are kids. It's another kids-based type movie thing, kind of like Stranger Things. I'm going to keep going back to Stranger Things because it reminds me a lot of Stranger Things. But you had Maya, who plays Eleven. You have Max, who is played by, I got it written down here, Sadie Sink, I think is her name. She's really good. You got Benjamin Flores Jr., who is phenomenal in this. I don't know what else he is in. I know I've seen him before, but a great child actor. Everybody in this did a really good job. I loved the acting. There really wasn't anybody or anything that was like, man, this is really bad. There wasn't really any cheesy acting. They kept like the comedy tone to a minimum. There's you know, they pop in a couple jokes here and there, but for the most part, man, this is a thriller. It's a gore fest. The gore in this is really good for a Netflix series. The CGI isn't... There's not a lot of CGI. There are some CGI blood spatters. You know, you're kind of like, blah. But, like, the costumes on this are fucking awesome. Like, the skull mask guy. The lighting in this. I'm all over the place, guys, but I really enjoyed this. But you got the skull mask guy. You got just this girl who slit her wrists. I should have written down the characters' names, but I didn't. There's this... Okay, here's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of 13 Ghosts, the remake, a lot. It reminds me a lot of 13 Ghosts on kind of all these witches, quote unquote, remind me a lot of the ghosts in 13 Ghosts, especially the dude who runs around with the axe. He reminds me of Sledgehammer, or Sledge, I think they called him in 13 Ghosts. And 13 Ghosts is like one of my favorite underrated movies. I'm a huge Matthew Lillard fan, and I know a lot of people shit on 13 Ghosts, but I really enjoyed it for what it was. But it's like 13 Ghosts meets Stranger Things meets Scream meets like your 80s slasher, because Going to part 2, it takes place in 1978, which is where you're like Iron Maiden and all those older bands from the soundtrack come in. It takes place on a camp, so you get that, you know, Friday the 13th vibe, which is my favorite series. So that was awesome. I don't know. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, although I already have. But like the whole camp thing is really cool. You got the camp counselors, you got the kids, and this movie does not shy away from killing off kids. Let me tell you, like, wow. When he went after the first kid and just, I'm like, oh, there's no way they're gonna kill. Oh shit, they killed him. So like, there's no holds barred on this series of films, man. They touch on everything. Your protagonists are females, which is great to see. Again, kind of like Stranger Things in 11, but you kind of have more than one. Each part 1, part 2, and part 3 kind of set up a new one each time, but it still works as a group. I was kind of thrown off on part 3. It takes place in 1666, 666, which, again, witches. It takes place in 1666, and I didn't initially, probably the first half hour, I wasn't digging on it. I'm like, man, this is really changing the tone, and I think it's going to kill the series for me. But then it kicks off, and it's fucking awesome. They throw a little twist in there, which I really enjoyed. It wasn't like, oh, this is trash, or, you know, they did it for the sake of doing it. It was really well written. Speaking of writing, this is based off the books by R.L. Stine. It's loosely based off the books from R.L. Stine. It's not like taking it directly from the books. They kind of just, you know, wrote their own thing, but it's based in that universe. So it's not really an anthology. It's really its own movie series. But part 3, I wasn't into it. It caught me. I got it. All 3 parts are good. Part 3, kind of like the Back to the Future trilogy, is kind of the weakest, but it has its strong points. I really enjoyed the way they used the same set of actors and actresses in each part. And at first you're kind of like, well, this doesn't make sense. How are they in 1994 and in 1978 and 1666? But they tie it all together really well. And the end, I will say, spoiler alert for the end, I don't know if I like the fact that they left it open-ended, like there could be sequels. Like, I really enjoyed this as a 3-part trilogy. I could definitely see it morphing into something more, but I don't think it needs it. I think they should stop it there. I know there's talks that they're going to, you know, because it's a big hit for Netflix, so obviously they're going to look into making sequels. But I really think it ended really, really well. In the same breath, I kind of want to know who it was at the end that, you know, makes it that they left it open-ended. Yeah, so overall, you know, you had all your movie references. You got Scream, you got The Shining, there's Poltergeist references, Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead. Like, this is just a homage to all great horror, great soundtrack. There's great actors, great actresses. If you have time to binge, I definitely suggest you sit down and you watch Fear Street. Start off with Fear Street Part 1, 1994. Don't get them mixed up. I almost watched Part 3 before Part 2. I'm glad I didn't because I would have been super fucking confused. So I hope you enjoyed this RoxX Reviews. I know it wasn't a retro review per se, but it still is a retro review because it kind of takes place, you know, in the past, kind of like my Stranger Things, not retro review. I know I said a lot. It's been a while since I've been on camera, so I hope you guys watch this. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe. Go follow the SE Rocks Facebook page, my Instagram page. I post some of my art and stuff on there. Be sure to purchase art from SE Rocks and all your local artists. I'm doing some special things with, like, old guitars and sports cards and, you know, all custom stuff that I'm trying to do. So make sure you support me, support everybody. Support everybody. We gotta love everybody, right? All right, this has been SE Rocks. Keep rocking and stay true.